Good evening and welcome to UTC Heathrow's open event for this year. My name is Wayne Edwards and I'm the principal of UTC Heathrow, and tonight you're going to hear from me and a number of my colleagues, parent governor and employer. A part of the event, what I'm going to do initially is a little bit of housekeeping. We have a chat function, so any questions you have, can you place in the chat? And if we don't manage to answer any questions, if you email us at info@heathrow-utc.org, and we'll hopefully be able to answer your questions. We've also got an event which is a little bit more in detail in regards to the curriculum, and that's next Friday on the 12th of February. So again, you can book onto that if you want more information about the in-depth curriculum that we do. I'm just going to go and play you a short video initially about UTCs and what we're all about. So, what is a UTC? So there are roughly about 50 UTC in the country, and they generally look at technical education in regards to engineering and other aspects with what we need in the country. Originally, they were brought about because there was a need of skills and a massive skill gap, and there is still a massive skill gap in this country. And what we do offer is courses which are full-time in technical and academic. We work with employer partners, and we have routes into higher education, apprenticeships, or even employment. Now, here at UTC Heathrow, what happens is we do a number of different things, and we're part of a multi-academy trust. And the multi-academy trust we work with is Activate Learning Education Trust. And the trust has 7 schools within there, and within the schools there are 4 UTCs as well as part of that. So we're quite unique as a trust, as we have a combination of traditional schools and technical schools with the UTCs. We are part of a trust which had the first outstanding UTC in the country, UTC Reading, and I was part of that and the setup all the way through that when I was a vice principal there. The trust itself is all about transforming lives through learning, and we do that through a number of different ways, and we look at our values of empowerment, enterprise, connectedness and transformation. What we do here in the UTCs, we do have a learning philosophy. It's all about our brain, emotions and motivation, and we talk through this in many ways, and we look at it as a part of the development of skills. It's not just about the academic, it's not just about that technical, but it's about those soft skills that industry need. And for us to be successful in the workplace and around and in life generally, we need to make sure our emotions are intact and we're using our brain effectively, and we are motivated to do what we need to do. Why here? So one of the key things for us is we work with a number of leading partners in the country. Heathrow Airport are one of our main partners, as well as Morgan Stantec and others. We work with these employers effectively to look at the curriculum, and they help to support that curriculum. And within that as well, they do practical projects, work experiences, and support and applications for university or apprenticeships. We also work with Brunel University as well, and one of the main things that they support with is about the UCAS application process, and for students to link directly with their engineering department. So I'm going to pass you over to Aaron Sohi, and Aaron is going to talk about what the UTC's pastoral element is like.
Hi there, good evening. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you, Wayne. As mentioned, my name is Aaron Sohi. I'm one of the assistant principals. I look after pastoral at Key Stage 4, pupil personal development, which includes the RSE and PHSE curriculum, as well as overseeing English and the SEND department. So given that the UTC tries to replicate as far as possible the conditions of a professional working environment, the dress code follows that. The dress code for all students is business dress, so shirt, tie. There is PPE or personal protective equipment, which includes shoes, goggles, and the overcoat, which is really important in terms of working downstairs in the engineering department. For females, the dress code is slightly different, but is still business formal dress, but for the females, the tie is optional. Dark shoes are obviously an expectation. In terms of the timings, it's Monday to Friday. School starts at 8:30 and finishes at 3:30. In terms of the pastoral system, so I have oversight of Key Stage 4, which is Year 10 and Year 11, and Key Stage 5, so Year 12 and 13, is in the hands of Ian Wilkins and Mr. Caller. All students are part of a tutor group and have a dedicated tutor. They see them every morning. Obviously, that's a very important relationship, and it's a very important grouping in terms of establishing friendships quickly, understanding and embodying and taking on the ethos of the trust and of the school, which is absolutely essential in terms of creating motivation, aspiration to achieve. It's through their tutor that they are delivered the PPD, or Personal Professional Development Programme, which encompasses everything from British values, careers, UCAS application. Obviously, apprenticeships are an essential part of that as well, and that is delivered through the tutor programme as well as through assemblies. In terms of the lines of communication, as mentioned, the person that your child will see every day, Monday to Friday, will be the tutor. So that's their first port of call and communication. And obviously that communication between the tutor and you is absolutely essential to ensuring that the children are able to adapt comfortably to life at school. Above the tutor, or working with the tutor, is the pastoral support manager, who is the first port of call for any issues in terms of anxiety or stress or any other struggles that students may have in terms of adapting to the rigors of secondary education. The assistant principal, which is myself, who works very closely with the pastoral support manager to identify where there are needs and look to deal with those proactively, and then the principal, Mr. Edwards, who you've obviously been seeing on the screen. I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Jasmine Caller, who is the other assistant principal, and he's going to talk you through some more information with regards to what we do here. Thank you.
Mr. Sohi, I'm responsible for I'm currently head of Year 12, but I'm going to talk to you about the Key Stage 4 curriculum for Years 10 and 11. So that on the very left-hand side of your screen, you will see that these are our core subjects. So we've got both English language and English literature. Each of those subjects will be 3 hours per week. There is 5 hours of GCSE mathematics in a week, GCSE biology, GCSE chemistry, and GCSE physics. Now, we offer triple science up until midway through Year 11, and then the decision is taken if it's going to be a double science award or a triple science award. The vast majority of our students do end up taking the triple science route. Our specialisms, which are both engineering and information technology, we offer a GCSE level 2 equivalent, so it's an engineering certificate, and also a certificate in information technology. So the core subjects are English, both English, mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics, engineering, and the IT. The choice of option is either between the computer science GCSE or the design technology GCSE. Now, the full-time timetable for a Year 10 or Year 11 student is 30 hours over the 5-day period. And you can see an example of that on the screen now. The start of the day is 8:30, and you can see that there's 10 minutes tutor time each day. And then there's periods 1 through to period 6. So there's a 2 hours after registration in the morning for the students. Then there's a 20-minute break, another 2 hours, lunch, followed by a further 2 hours, and finishing at 3:30. I'm going to hand you back over to Mr. Wilkins, who's the assistant principal responsible for Year 12, Year 13. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Caller. Good evening. So yeah, I'm Ian Wilkins. I'm one of the assistant principals. I'm in charge of Year 13, but I'm also in charge of the specialisms. So I lead in the engineering and the IT departments. So I'm going to concentrate now talking about the post-16 qualification, so Key Stage 5. There are basically 2 ways through the school. There's the A-level option, which we'll talk about first. So we do A-levels and GCSEs, so GCs in maths, physics, and computer science. And to get into those courses, you need to have 5 GCSEs at grade 4 or above, with a 6 or above in the chosen A level. So for example, if you want to do an A level in physics, you need 5 GCSEs with a level 6 in physics. And then the other option through the school we call the technical pathway. These are the BTEC qualifications. So we can do BTECs in engineering or IT, and we do them at several different levels. Everything we do at the school can lead a student through to university or an apprenticeship. Everything is worth the equivalent of 3 A levels. So for example, if a student is doing what's called the extended certificate in engineering or IT, that in itself is worth an A level. So alongside that, they do 2 A levels. And then moving down, if they do a diploma, they do 1 other A level. And if they do the full extended diploma in engineering or IT, that is worth the 3 A levels on its own. Again, we need the 5 GCSEs at 4 or above, including a grade 5 in maths, because these 2 sets of courses do need you still to have a skill set of maths. A typical timetable for a Key Stage 5 student, you'll notice, is different to Key Stage 4 in that the students don't have to be in school all the time. So for example, in this person's timetable, their Monday period 1, they don't have to be in school until period 2. And then moving down the day, they have period 3. Now we'd call that period 3 a study period. They can stay in school and stay on site. The school canteen is open for Key Stage 5 students all the time as a social area, or they can use the LRC to continue their studies. But because they have ongoing assignments and so on, we don't expect the students to be able to take lots of breaks. And similar for the technical students, so for a BTEC student, that's a similar sort of timetable you can see there. One of the things we do try to do is to minimize the amount of travel time. So a Key Stage 5 timetable might, and I say might with a strong provision on that, might not have to come into school on, say, a Friday, or have less time in school on a Friday that they can finish early and go home, to try to reduce the amount of travel time. And also building in future-proofing when schools introduce T-levels, it allows us to have more opportunity to drop down the school timetable so that we have more communication with our sponsors and employers, so that it interrupts less on their learning. And I'll hand you over now to Mrs. Fisher, one of our parent governors. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My daughter joined the school in year 10 a couple of years ago. She'd previously been homeschooled. So as a parent who was completely new to the school system, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I have to say I was very pleasantly surprised with the level of communication between the school and parents. If I ever had any concerns at all, they were very quickly addressed either by email or with a phone call. The benefit of a relatively small school like UTC Heathrow is that the staff get to know your child pretty quickly, and they don't get swallowed up in a school year of possibly hundreds as they might be in other schools. Now, as a parent of a child who was very interested in engineering, I was really impressed with the workshop on site and the equipment that the students have access to. I was also drawn to the Careers and Pipeline programme, which brings the students into contact with potential employers. Now, as a homeschooling parent, I was very keen to see what went on behind the scenes, so I decided to become a parent governor and joined the governing body in November of 2018. Over the last 2 and a bit years, I've been really impressed with the dedication and hard work that goes on behind the scenes, especially in the current climate with arrangements having to be made for remote learning. Everyone is constantly striving to improve the school and get the best possible outcomes for the students. So really what I have to say is, if your child has an interest in engineering or computer science, then I really would have no hesitation in recommending that they apply to UTC Heathrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. You've heard a little bit from the senior team and from Julie, who's the parent governor. Really, the other side of it, which makes us very different from all other schools in the area of where we are, is about our partner engagement. Now, on the screen at the moment are a number of partners there who are all work with us and have worked with us at different levels, both at Key Stage 4 and at Key Stage 5. I'm going to pass you on to Peter Jones, who is part of Morgan Sindall and is a governor at the school as well. and he will be able to tell you a little bit more how Morgan Sindel engaged with us.
Thank you, Wayne. Good evening, everybody. So as Wayne said, I work for Morgan Sindel. I'm a business improvement manager. We are a platinum partner with the UTC. I just want to pick up on something that Wayne said a bit earlier about transforming lives through learning. So we never stop transforming our lives through learning, through our careers. And that's a really important thing that we do, through our employee engagement. So I started off my career as an apprentice electrician, and now I'm a business improvement manager covering sort of quite a few projects. So that's how I've evolved. Through our employee engagement, we share the skills that we're looking for with young people through work experience. So things like listening and teamwork are really important when we're working with other people. And as we know, we have had to adapt the way that we work, both at school and on projects and things through virtual media. And again, we use some of our skills in terms of problem solving, staying positive, being creative. These are all really important skills that we bring into the world of work. As Wayne said, I'm a governor, so I'm a link governor for this UTC. So my role is to look at improvements around leadership and management. And again, as the guys have said, we use my skills to help to develop the curriculum and other areas of improvement that will help to make the UTC a better place for young people to get their education. So I'll just hand you back to Wayne now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Touching on a little bit what was said for both Julie and Peter there, is about transforming lives through learning and the skills. In the current climate, everybody has had to adapt, especially in regards to remote learning, use of Zoom, use of Microsoft Teams. And at the UTC, one of the key aspects that we do, which helped us with this, is that our students learn to use Microsoft Teams from year 10 onwards, and have done before this current climate in how we use our work and how we try to adapt those skills as though we're in the world of work and what you would do when in work. So for us, our remote learning, I believe, is excellent because we've been able to develop it over a period of time. Carrying on with the partner engagement and following on what Peter said, we would, in a normal year, and without the pandemic hitting last March, run a program called the Talent Pipeline program, and that program runs at Key Stage 5, and that's really important for us because that's where a lot of employer engagement happens, and our students are able to work with those employers on a one-to-one basis and develop the skills that those employers want. So last Talent Pipeline we did, these real employers were all involved, all the way from Heathrow, Atkins, Fujitsu, and others. And what happened was students had to apply to be part of the pipeline with them. And what the companies did is they shortlisted from the applications of why they wanted to do this and selected 5 students all the way through to work with them. And they worked with them for each term or half term as such, and these were the dates that were happening. And with them, they worked on their mentoring, their employability skills. They worked on some technical skills, so specific for them. So Babcock worked on an apprenticeship day and did mock apprenticeship days and helped the students to see what it was like to do an apprenticeship day and develop some of the skills and give them some key pointers to help them to progress into the future and move forward. I know from Heathrow and the IT guys, they were doing some technical skills to do with cybersecurity and other aspects of what's happening behind the airport. But this program is unique to us at the UTC, and we developed and worked very hard with our partners. And apart from the ones there, we use others from engineering firms, and they all do the similar sort of pathway. And we feed back, and they feed back to us. And students have been able to go on to internships from the summer and move on to employment and go through their apprenticeship programs with them. We're also, as I said, we talked about cybersecurity. We're part of the National UTC Cybersecurity Group, and we work very closely with Cisco, Palo Alto, and others about developing those cybersecurity skills that all companies need in the future. And they use industry-based software using immersive labs where they can train to use their skills safely and securely. We also are a Microsoft IT Academy, so we're able to offer those professional qualifications on top. So the students will also be able to get qualifications in Microsoft Office and what's called Microsoft Technical Associated Awards and Autodesk qualifications for engineering to develop their CAD skills moving forward, so they become more employable, apart from the academic rigor that we expect. So generally, what questions do we get asked? And this is only a small amount, and some of them I know that people have put out there. Can you get a locker? Yes, we have lockers. They're £10 deposits. As Mr. Keller had said, break and lunch times are 20 and 30 minutes currently. Lessons are an hour in length. And PPE. If you notice, Mr. Keller and Mr. Wilkins, they're wearing the UTC PPE jackets, which you're able to purchase from us. And that as well as gloves, safety glasses and shoes. Money-wise, it's cashless catering. We use parent pay, which in your current school you may use, but also we have a debit card at the counter as well. So they're able to use debit cards with tap and go to order food. The food itself is allowed. The food is all made fresh on site, so nothing is bought in or pre-made. Everything is made fresh. Other things that we generally do, we talk about travel, and students travel from many areas across and many different counties, from London, Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, and different areas to travel to us so they get the education that they want. So I'm almost finished the presentation, so I'm just going to say, how do you get to us? Well, apply, go onto our website, click apply, and you'll be talked through a form, what to fill in. You'll be contacted by our admissions officer, Louise, and she will talk you through what the application process is and different areas. The videos that are currently, as we're in national lockdown and we're in tier 4 in different aspects, we cannot do tours of the building as of yet. However, if you go onto our website, there is a virtual tour, a video of me going through the building and what the building is really like on a daily basis. Contact us, drop us an email if we haven't answered anything at info@heathrow-utc.org, or you can send a letter or just visit the website for more information. But the one thing I will say now, I'm going to ask all my colleagues to come back on and we'll answer some more questions from the chat.
Thanks, Wayne. We've got a few questions through. So the first one is, how are classes set? Is this viability?
So I'm going to pass that on to Jazz, and I'll let Jazz answer that one.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. What we tend to do is we have the students arrive in both year 10 and year 12. Particularly in year 10, we would do a CATS test. And what that does is give us an idea of what level students are working at, particularly with numeracy and sort of literacy levels. And we broadly set the students at that stage. And then what we will tend to find is that the students are work the first term within each of the subjects, and the subjects then will do their own testing and work out if there is a requirement to set their typically setting is done in maths and occasionally in science, particularly late into year 10, but the other groups, the other sets that is the other classes are typically taught in form groups, and they're usually similar sizes as well, so between 20 and 25. I hope that answers that question there.
Next question is, how has UTC Heathrow adapted to remote learning?
I'm going to ask Ian to lead on that one, as he's leading that across the school.
Thank you. We'd started actually doing a section of remote learning anyway before the first lockdown. We do distance learning for our Key Stage 5 students on Fridays anyway, so they've done distance learning and they were very good at it. Now we've just followed the normal timetable, but through Microsoft Teams is what we've used. Obviously, different teachers will have slightly different approaches. There's plenty of online learning and apps and things that they use, but really our school day hasn't changed. It's just where we are when we present it and where the students are when they hand their work in. We've used assignments in Microsoft Teams since September of 2 years ago now to submit the work. So really, I think we're quite ahead of the game. Thank you.
How do you support children with special educational needs?
So I'll pass that one on to Aaron.
That's a great question. So obviously, every child is different. And that's certainly the case with children with special educational needs. I think it's really important, to be clear that there are no easy answers in terms of that question. It does very much depend on what the student's needs are. But of course, the most obvious things that we do is where there is an EHCP, then we have to make ourselves very aware of what the provision required by that child is. We use something called learning passports, and what that basically means is it's almost like a sheet of information in terms of successful strategies for that student. Teachers are made aware of what those strategies are, and they're continually updated and continually sharing successful practice. So we'll meet on a termly basis or a half-termly basis and share strategies that have worked well with that student, maybe seating arrangements, pairings, activities that work, so that we're constantly supporting each other to make sure that students are supported. Where students do have access to a learning support or learning support in class, which does depend on the level of support that they need. We don't operate what's called a static model. So an LSA will be in a class, but an LSA will never be sat just with one child, which can stigmatize the support of the LSA. So the LSA will be responsible for, moving around the class, supporting a number of students, whilst also making sure that support is targeted to the students that need it the most. I think one thing that I haven't mentioned is quality first teaching, and that's ensuring with Ian's support and with continual teaching and learning support that all teachers are delivering excellent lessons with strong levels of differentiation, but whilst also challenging all of our learners. And it's a case of constantly reviewing what we're doing, looking at the data to see where success has been achieved, and fine-tuning our approach to students. So there's a lot of things that we do, but like I said at the start, every child is an individual, every child is different, and the level of support or the type of support will vary depending on that child's needs. Has that answered your question? Brilliant,
thank you. Our next question is, how much practical work will students have in a normal week?
I'll pass that over to Ian, who depends on the course. I will start with before Ian answers the question.
Yeah, it does depend upon what course they are doing. So for example, if it's a GCSE student, generally speaking, they might have 5 lessons a week, and of those 5 lessons a week, 3 of them are probably going to be in the workshops. For the Key Stage 5 students, it sort of comes in blocks. So it depends what units that they are studying. So for year 12, they will do unit 2 is the main unit. It's called Working Together Safely as a Team. It's a catchy little title. They're in the workshop for at least a third of the time of that course. Then they do another unit 5, which is the engineering project. So towards the end of year 12, once they've finished making their designs and they've developed their projects, they go back into the workshops to make it. Year 13s do unit 41, which is secondary processes. That's using milling machines, center lathes, pillar drills, and that's quite an extensive course that lasts all year. So I'm afraid there isn't one answer to the question. It depends on what course they're doing, but there is a substantial amount of time spent in the workshops. The one thing that we have, it's a virtual workshop behind me, but this is our workshop. It's huge. Those of you that might be like year 9 at the moment and still in a regular school, our workshop is probably about the size of 3 or 4 of your classrooms. So we can get lots of students in, and everybody gets so much practical experience. Thank you.
Our next question is, how do you support a child with an EHC plan if fails for GCSE?
So I'll start with this and I'll pass back to Aaron in a minute. If a student goes into year 12 with an ECHP, again, we do a very holistic approach. It depends on the plan itself and what's needed. And we will then work with the parents and that student to support them through whatever the course is at Key Stage 5. Generally, all students in Key Stage 5 need to have a laptop. That's one of the requirements of one of their equipment, because the work that they study. That helps for students who have a plan with dyslexia or have a need with, and they're writing skills, so that supports them initially. And then there will be a learning support assistant that may actually help them with that. Aaron, have I missed anything? Or
no, I think that covers everything. I think I'd highlight the kind of the 3 waves of intervention. You know, wave 1 is that quality first teaching. Wave 2 is the support that happens outside of lessons. But again, you know, every EHCP is entirely different, and the students' needs will be different. So it's important to be clear that, you know, there are strategies that are across the school, but in terms of the precise logistics of what that intervention is, it will very much depend on the student's EHCP, which of course are reviewed, you know, yearly. So it's about assessing, planning, doing, and then reviewing the success of the strategies that have been put in place.
As we're in lockdown, will we get to have a one-on-one conversation online with our new teachers if we were to join the school for Year 12?
The answer is yes. So as we go through the year, if we still are in lockdown and we can't do a taster day, we generally, on a normal year, get students in the summer term, and we do a taster day for Year 10 and Year 12, where they spend time doing, looking at the workshop, doing a practical activity, doing some of the curriculum that they were studying. They get to meet the teachers. We then do a meet the tutor evening as such, and they get to talk to their tutors. And what we did last year when we were in lockdown, the tutors contacted the students directly in Year 12 and introduced themselves and were able to have a one-to-one conversation with them. And we also did tasted lessons with the members of staff in those areas. So I know at Key Stage 5, we did engineering and we did the A-levels, and students were able to sign up to those and they're able to have a taster lesson in those with those teachers and ask questions.
How many sets are there for subjects?
Jas, I'll leave you with that one.
Yes, no problem. If we're talking about Year 10, so a student starts in Year 10, we typically have 2 form groups, and we tend to have 2 sets. The groups are never bigger than 25. If we're talking about students starting in Year 12, again, because of the practical element, we don't have classes any bigger than 25, and they're typically between 20 and 25 in Year 12. So it tends to be 2 groups, 2 form groups, and 2 sets across all of the GCSE subjects, unless it's a optional subject. And if it's computer science, you may have students, you know, a number of between 10 and 12. Design technology tends to be slightly more popular, and the groups tend to be 17 or 18. I hope that answers that question there. If you have any others, please feel free to ask them again.
What opportunities do the GCSE students have for work experience?
Lots, actually, because currently we're doing lots of virtual work experience activities, and lots of information is going out where students sign up to do the work experience. So in year 11, they'll get a work experience. Usually it's around about this time, and our current Year 11 are going into work experience at the moment. Year 12 and 13, Year 13 get work experience, and Year 12 will get experience as part of the pipeline. So as a whole, there's lots of work experience, and there's drop-down days, and the events that partners come in are also classed really as work experience, because they're doing skills with you that they would need for their own work. So it's important to remember that.
Are there exams for students who will be starting in Year 10?
Entrance exams, no. We do assessments throughout the year. What happens at key points, so we're able to make sure that everybody is making progress. Near the end of Year 10, we do a full assessment across all subjects, and that's really important for us to see how well they're doing following that GCSE curriculum. This year it's different currently where we are, and what we're trying to do is make sure we can assess where those gaps are and moving forward. But we are planning for our current Year 10s to do an assessment at the end of Year 10 to see how much progress they've made since they start. As Mr. Keller said in his talk about when they arrive, we do something called CATS test, And that isn't a test as such. What it is gives us an idea of their cognitive ability and able to give us a starting point of gaps in their knowledge so that we can plug them with the curriculum maps within the subjects that they study.
What equipment will students need? For example, a laptop?
Year 12, they all need a laptop, and that's compulsory. Definitely a pen, pencil, and all the standard equipment. They also will need their PPE equipment, the jacket, as Mr. Carr, Mr. Wilkins are wearing at the moment, gloves, glasses, shoes as well, that make sure that they're the right shoes within there, and a bag. It's important they have a bag because they do need to carry their stuff with them. Key Stage 4, they will need PPE equipment, and they will also need pen, pencil, ruler, and all the normal standard equipment that they will need. In Key Stage 4, it's not compulsory for them to have a laptop, but they can if they need to, and that's the way and best way of them working.
The next one's on travel. So what are the travel links like? Someone's asked, are there buses that go from High Wycombe to the school? Do we know?
High Wycombe. No, what generally students do is they get on the train at High Wycombe and get off at Beaconsfield, and from Beaconsfield they get the tube direct to Northwood Hills, and we are 450 metres away from Northwood Hills tube station. That's the easiest way of doing that trip from High Wycombe. We have really good links in London with the transport, including the buses that travel from Hayes and all around the place, and the tube links are exceptionally well using the Met line.
My child won't know anyone. Do many students join and quickly find friendships?
I'm going to pass that to Julie, because Julie will know this from experience with her own daughter.
Yeah, I'd say everyone's in the same boat. It's not like you're joining a school where everyone's been there since year 3 or whatever and gone through together, and you're joining new in year 10. Everyone's new in year 10. So yes, I would say sort of friendship groups sort of form pretty quickly and easily.
Thank you.
What's the split of those going to university versus apprenticeships when they leave, roughly?
Ian?
I knew you were going to ask me. It changes each year. Typically, it tends to be about 75% of the students go to university, about 25% go to apprenticeships. Some years we have a higher number go to the higher level apprenticeships. So we're talking there about the university apprenticeships and the level 4 apprenticeships. But last year, with the COVID situation, a lot of those apprenticeships fell down. So those students ended up going to university. Some of them took gap years to delay their entries. But it does change a little bit. But everybody, I mean, almost everybody goes to university or gets a good quality apprenticeship. This year, it looks like we will be about 75% going to university, about 20% going to apprenticeships, and about 5% have deferred their entry to university for another year.
What after-school clubs are available to students?
So we've got various after-school clubs. So on a normal year, we'll do Build a Plane. Currently, we haven't been able to do that with the COVID, which is a shame, because the actual chassis of the plane is there, and the students build that from scratch, and that's a great after-school club for them to work, and actually the staff like to do that too. We've got an astronomy club, which is really interesting. So it's another diverse STEM qualification, but for those interested in physics and astrology is always a good one. We have homework clubs, we've got the professional qualifications, and there's probably more actually. Have I missed any, Mr. Keller?
We've also got the combined cadet force on site, and they meet 2 hours on a Wednesday afternoon, which goes from 3:30 to 5:30. We've had robotics in the past. We've got computer science club. It varies year on year. We've got 4 or 5 running. They tend to run once or twice a week.
Thank you.
Are there many girls that study with you?
I'd like to have more girls study with us. If I'm perfectly honest with that question, it's traditional engineers. It's very stereotypical, and females in STEM are an area that we are trying to work on. At Key Stage 4, there's more girls that study with us at Key Stage 4 than Key Stage 5. So, you know, we've got roundabout in total, probably about 15 to 18%, but we'd like to get that up, and we're trying to work on that to get up to 30, 40, 50%.
Okay, we've got a couple more. So when is the application deadline?
So the application deadline has passed. However, we're still taking applications. However, places are going very quickly. So if you are interested, it's really important you apply sooner rather than later. You know, we've just sent our offers out, but there are only a few spaces left.
Okay, and the last one is about upcoming events. So what have we got that's coming up? I know at the start you mentioned there's a curriculum event.
Yes, so on a Friday this week, there's a meet me on a general one-to-one, similar to tonight as such, but a bit more informal. Next Friday on the 12th, we've got a curriculum event where Aaron, Jazz and Ian will all be talking in depth about the curriculum at Key Stage 4 and 5. So there's a bit more information there about the actual examining boards, the qualifications, what's studied in those qualifications, all the way through. And that's probably a really good event to go to if you're interested to know a bit more about the engineering course, or a bit more about Key Stage 4, or a bit more about the computer science course as well.
That's all the questions we've had.
Thank you. So once again, I'd like to thank you for attending this event tonight, and I'd like to thank the panelists in front of me, and we are in various parts of the country as well. So it's great to have an event like this, and hopefully all the people have got something from this. And I wish you all to stay safe, and I wish you a good evening, and thank you.